Hello and welcome to the Pretty Good Gaming Podcast. My name is Mike Williams. I'm joined by Gareth Evans and James Wright, who's an intern here with us. We're going to go through your questions again this week, but before we do that, we're going to talk about the Patreon changes. Hello everyone, Mike here, your handsome host for today's podcast. Gareth is talking right now about the changes that Patreon had announced a week or so ago to the way that fees work on Patreon and how our patrons would end up paying an extra 35 cents if they donated $1 to us, and that wasn't a good situation. And we spent 10 minutes at this podcast talking like this. Look, Gareth had a lot to say. Look at him go. Look at what look at his mouth go. Look at his gesticulation of his hands. His hands are flying in the air. I mean, he had a lot to say about this. But the Gareth that you're watching right now, the Mike and the James that you're watching right now, were blissfully ignorant to the news that would unfold before them in the 24 hours after filming this podcast that would make this bit of the podcast utterly useless to everyone. So we're going to cut it out. And this is what this thing is. This is me explaining to you that we've had to badly trim out a part of the podcast and patch it up with this shit bit of voiceover. Sorry. Enjoy the rest of the podcast, guys. So that's that sorted. Thanks for listening to that, and I hope that does help if you've had any concerns about this since the news has come out. So the first question this week is from our Patreon, Ben Smith. With all the talk of video games being incapable of tackling certain issues, Detroit Become Human, are there any games you feel went too far with blood, gore, or graphical content? Maybe Grand Theft Auto, a common target for people to put on the whole industry. Now, this is an interesting question because it's so easy. As soon as you start going down this line, people are like, "Oh, you don't criticize games. You can't criticize because you're criticizing art, and it becomes this whole thing." I think there's a difference between going too far and just not doing it well. And I think some games do really extreme gore and violence like Mortal Kombat. And it's just Mortal Kombat. It's daft. It's so unbelievably violent that it's like, look what I've just done to that person, and they're just getting up like it didn't happen. And it just gives you X-ray views of spines breaking and things being ripped out of bodies and stuff. And then they just get up and keep fighting. It's just ridiculous. So I think there's and that's fine. That's fun. That's what Mortal Kombat is about. You want a really stupidly violent fighting game. Yeah. I don't think that's what I think. I don't think even movies or anything can go too far. I think they can just do things badly. I think they can misjudge how violent some things need to be, like I said, that's the same for movies. I think you can just do it wrong. You can just be rubbish, and just by making things super violent, it doesn't make it good. Like, why is it super violent? That's what I want to know. Is it super violent because you want it to be like Mortal Kombat, or is it super violent because you want it to be shocking and you want to, kind of like the Last of Us trailer or whatever, which is kind of, that's done a totally different thing to Mortal Kombat, but equally is incredibly violent. So it's trying to do different things, and does it work or not? That's the question. I don't know about you guys.
Have you ever felt like a game's gone too far with violence or any sort of adult themes?
I mean, other than the aforementioned Mortal Kombat series or the Last of Us trailer, I'm a big fan of wrestling games, as everyone in the office knows. Yeah. And
that's
as I was
fake, though, isn't it?
No, yeah. Well,
sorry.
Yeah.
I just thought I'd get the dig in early there.
Just get in there. But yeah, as I was playing it, like when I was younger, at my nan and granddad's house and playing in front of my nan, she was always like, kill him. I was like, Nan, what are you doing? Wow. It's simulation. What's going on? And that had no blood, no gore, very limited weapons, if you can even call them that. Right. So even from an early age, it's going there. But then, coming back to like Mortal Kombat and that, is it a case of desensitization going on? Like, yeah, because we've had Mortal Kombat, which 25 years, 20 years, something like that, since the first game came out, maybe longer.
I don't believe in kind of desensitization to that degree, because I think humans have been incredibly violent forever. And then became really prudish in Victorian times, and suddenly everything was out of bounds, and then now we're just kind of exploring the things that were already there.
I mean, you imagine like it was a public event when someone got hanged or beheaded or something. People go and watch. People would go there to watch people die.
Burn the witch.
That was entertainment. That was entertainment back in the day. But
so it's. I think desensitization. I mean, to say I don't believe it is, that's not true. I guess. I mean, I guess it does. Of course, it does happen. You see something, you experience something a lot, and then you become less bothered by it. Obviously that happens, but I don't think as a huge societal issue, I don't think it's that big a problem. I don't think we're all becoming mass. The amount of people who play Call of Duty every year and things like that, and I don't think it's becoming a huge problem for society at all. I think it's been there in films for a long time as well. And but having said that, you do look. I watched like Halloween or whatever recently, and that's incredibly tame. And that's like the original slasher movie, and that's just not.
I think standards do get pushed, and
they do.
The more the time goes on, the more people are accepting of certain things, and that's the same with sex and naked and nudism. And all that sort of stuff.
But I think it's cyclical. I think it'll bounce back. I think it's like I said, the Victorian times. It'll reach a point, and then people are like, oh my god, we've got to stop, and then it'll just kind of bounce, and there'll be like a society. If anything goes in one direction for too long, there'll be a pushback against it, and it doesn't matter what either direction that is. And I think it'll just be a cyclical thing. And there are so many games now. If you don't want violence in your games, that offer you unbelievable experiences without even a hint of violence in them. And I think that.
And even in some of the games that are violent, you can turn off the blood.
That's an option. Yeah.
Even the violent ones can be.
But you can't turn off the torture scene in GTA 5.
No,
you can't. That is when it comes to going too far, which is what the question was. I remember playing through that scene, and it was difficult because I'm not used to taking part in torture, and it's like I don't want to be a torturer.
Yeah.
And I can imagine why people think that's too far, but. It's all, I don't know, is that all right? Is that too far? If it's not too far, what is too far? Because too far for me would be...
Exactly.
Themes of, sexual deviance, that kind of... I don't want to say it, but we're all aware of what I'm talking about here. But there was a scene in Godless I was watching last night, and it went into... I say a rape. Like there was a rape scene in it, and I was like, well, this is done to a point where you don't see what's going on. It was a bit of a montage as well, and I think it's important that you don't show too much graphicness, and it's sometimes better to just cut to someone else's reaction or to imply what's going on rather than showing in great detail people's faces and all that kind of thing. So there is a good way to do it, but I don't think that thing would ever wash well in the game. I think that is way too far in the game. And
that's absolutely what I was saying to open up this question. I think it's just a matter of how you do it, and what's the purpose? I think saying it goes too far is kind of a difficult phrase, because that is a subjective thing, because everyone has a different line to begin with, and it becomes a matter of like what you think is good and bad. And the Last of Us 2 trailer, the big kind of controversial one, I didn't like it because I was just like, well, there's no connection. I don't know who these people are. This is just an explosive scene of extreme violence for 3 or 4 minutes just to kind of tell me that the world is shit. I mean, and I didn't like that, but I didn't really feel like, oh, that crossed the line. That's out of bounds. You can't do that. I just felt I didn't like that because I wasn't convinced that what they were trying to do was that level of violence wasn't justified in my opinion. And I think that's what it is. I think the torture scene in GTA, I don't think you can do a torture scene well. I don't know, unless you're telling a point, unless there's some real meaning for it, which there definitely was not in that GTA one. It was just ridiculous.
The gameplay, wasn't it?
You think of TV shows like 24, is it? I don't remember too much, but there was a point where where the protagonist, I can't remember, Kiefer Sutherland's character. I mean, I can't remember, the details are sketchy in my head, but there's a point where you could be faced with a situation where you have a choice between torturing someone or let innocence die. So there's that morality choice that it throws in the air, which is why adding that type of thing in a story can explore what right and wrong is in a moral way, and I think that is a good reason to have it in there. But just having it there because.
For funsies, basically.
I mean, for funsies, I don't know. I can't remember too much why we had to torture in GTA 5.
Well, the thing is with that is you were playing a game about robbing banks, and you were playing as a mental kind of character who just crosses all kinds of lines all the time, kind of societal lines, and then he's just you have to play out the torture scene, and then you kind of feel there's a certain element of shock factor marketing there, because they knew that the Daily Express and the Mail Online and whatever would go, sick game shows torturing, and then there's loads of headlines about GTA. You feel like there's elements of that in it slightly, I guess, as well. But that's an excellent question, though. That is a very, very good question, and it's something that's worth discussing and thinking about for sure. Cheers, Ben Smith. Next up, Obai Nematala says, talking about how PlayStation Plus has changed to be a requirement for online now, my question is, What feature do you think we will have to pay for in newer generations of consoles that are free now, and how do you think they'll make it so we can't access something without paying for it first? So PlayStation Plus, that was just an add-on service, I guess, for PS3. So you got you subscribed to that if you wanted discounts and you wanted free games every month, and they were great free games as well. Now you've got to have PlayStation Plus to play online on PS4. So that's the question from Orbina Metalla there. Is there something that we kind of take for granted now that maybe you're a bit worried that we might lose in the future? Is there any kind of, any features that we have now that we can enjoy that we might have to pay for in the future? Because I think the way things go is
they try their best to monetize everything. If there's anything that they can break off and charge an extra fee for, they will do that, because at the end of the day, they're trying to make as much money as possible before anything else. I don't see there's much else they can break off. And funnily enough, with regards to that too, the amount that the communities are backlashing against companies that just take bad decisions these days, I can't see that, because if this year has been such a huge year for community backlashes and getting change actioned from games companies. It's a treacherous place to be, trying to monetize things now for companies. So really I can't even think of anything else that they could monetize. I mean, multiplayer itself, have a session of multiplayer. I don't know how small can they make these?
If they did a reverse move on that, where they made, and this is something a few people have said. Liam said it in the office about COD, I think, as well. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I'm pretty sure a few people have been saying things like, I wouldn't mind spending 20 quid, here or there, whatever, for just the single player of COD or something, or the Star Wars Battlefront or whatever. I just want to see what pans out in the story. I've been following the series. I'm not asked about the multiplayer, and then people are saying, "Oh yeah, I wouldn't mind a bit of the single player action." So if they did the reversal there of, rather than pay extra for the multiplayer, they just kind of took a bit off the full retail price. That'd be something. There are a few business models out there as well, like Origin Access and EA Access. That's so good value for money at the moment. I definitely feel like they're just doing that to bring users to use Origin and whatever, and then once they've got a big enough user base, they'll just start cranking the price up, because it's 20 quid a year for a large amount of EA games, including recent ones like Battlefield 1 and Mass Effect Andromeda, and that's like a Netflix style job. You just enjoy it as much as you want, and just for that 20 quid. So that's got to go up pretty soon. But it's a tough, I think, like Gareth said, it's a tough proposition for any company in this day and age to be like, oh, good news everyone, if you want to access the multiplayer in this game, it's only going to cost you 20 quid. It's like 20 quid on top of the 60 quid that you've already spent. They're like, well, yeah, good luck with that. I think I don't want to touch wood, but I think we're kind of pretty safe at the moment for monetization and stuff, because it's going to be very difficult for anyone to do it, to add any more monetization, put it in front of us. So Mounty Man asks, best musical score in a game. This is a big open question. Any best musical scores in video games for you guys? I mean, I've got so many answers to this. I'm someone who, but he says, I'm someone who doesn't like to listen to outside music in my single-player games, because I want to experience the game the way the creators wanted. I couldn't agree more with that. I never put Spotify on or anything when playing games.
But funny enough, Jake in the office does a lot of the time. But weirdly enough, back to Jake again. My kids were in the office yesterday because it was a snow day from school, which was fun, and they were playing Lego The Hobbit. And just like the music from The Hobbit, and Jake was like, "This is the best soundtrack ever." It was like
he's not wrong though.
Hyperbole.
Not
Monday.
The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings.
The Lord of the Rings. And if that counts, because it's technically a game, but it's also ripped off from a movie. Yeah, and that's Jake's answer, I think. Because,
well, I would wholeheartedly agree with Jake there. The Lord of the Rings trilogy is just got the best music score of anything ever, and that's just information. That's facts. But as far as video games, there are a lot of Lord of the Rings games. So I guess there's the actual movie license games and stuff. But original video game scores, I've got to say, Fable is absolutely magic.
Skyrim's pretty cool.
Skyrim is wonderful, and you can kind of forget how good Skyrim is, and then when you just hear it, just even when you were playing it on the Switch a few weeks ago, it's like, even through the small speakers of a Nintendo Switch, you're like, oh man, that's good.
Stirring emotions.
Yeah, it really is. It's really special stuff. James, you got any favourite soundtracks?
Sonic Adventure 2, because I'm a massive Sonic fan, and I loved all the songs on that game so much that I actually added them to my my iTunes account back in day.
Very nice.
That's but I agree, Skyrim.
Skyrim is a special.
It was so good they made it into a vinyl recently.
Yeah,
as well, so
there's this whole thing about video game music these days, which is lovely, where there's just kind of orchestras performing albums of all the all like video game classical versions of all video game tracks and stuff. It's absolutely beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
The London Symphony Orchestra did an album, and it had like the Battlefield guy on the cover holding a cello. I mean, yes, more of that, please. So that was very nice.
My other answer, sorry to cut across you, is Mafia 3. I think I like the
good
60s
mix.
theme of that.
Yeah,
there was Johnny Cash. There was the band, which anything that has got the band in it, it's got my seal of approval. A lot of 60s music, which I'm interested in. And it's different again for a game as well. They don't normally have so many licensed actual songs in games like that. So. And the Fallout series is pretty cool as well.
Fallout is I like
good.
Bethesda generally are pretty good at soundtracks. As Wolfenstein and stuff is wonderful. Doom, oh my god, Doom from last year. Oh my word, it's just as far as a soundtrack that fits the actual gameplay, it's just one of the best in years, I think. And yeah, Mafia is a great answer because that, as far as a compilation of like pop, I guess like classic pop songs and stuff, it's just spot on. It's just really good. It really puts you in the periods, doesn't it? Like big stuff. The music plays such an important role. There's a lot of indie games as well that, in my opinion, are made really special by the soundtrack. And I'm thinking of Transistor and the other kind of Supergiant games. Pyre, I wasn't kind of that big a fan of Pyre, but that also had some wonderful music in it. But Transistor soundtrack is really special, and the music actually elevates the entire experience because that's how good it is. So thanks for the question there, dude. Tyler Worsley. It's probably been asked before, but I was playing a game called Way of the Samurai 4, and in your second playthrough, you can run into the first character you made. So my question is, what mechanics from not very well-known games would you like to see in certain games? Now, to give you an idea, Stephen Hughes has chimed in with an answer of his own here. Battlefield 2 Modern Combat for the original Xbox. It had a system in single-player called Hot Swap, where you could warp into and take control of any friendly NPC in line of sight. Now, that is... firstly, a good question. Secondly, an excellent answer, Stephen. That is also my answer. Battlefield.
Yeah, you can't do that.
I've done it. I've done it.
You can't do that.
Let me explain to you what it was. It was like, if anyone doesn't know, so Modern Combat. It was like you'd be fighting in some kind of snow-covered, Swedish skiing town or something like that, and there'd be tanks everywhere. There'd be helicopters in the sky. It was a kind of single-player representation of the multiplayer, right? But you'd have guys everywhere. There'd be guys on the roof. You'd have allies everywhere. And if you were like, oh, that thing's happening over there, you could just look at a sniper, press a button, and then it would warp you into that sniper. So then suddenly you'd be playing a sniper on a roof. So you could just hop around the battlefield. And I don't think any game has really done anything like that since. And that was actually really, really good. Any other guys?
See, my problem is here that there's probably some very good answers, but none spring to mind right now.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it?
I do actually remember thinking, thinking of an answer for this,
right?
Before, but I can't recall it now. Maybe I'll think of it before the end of the podcast.
Yeah, we can definitely.
Now, unfortunately, great question, but unfortunately, I don't have.
You got any offers? Any
Like,
mechanics you'd like to see?
Can I come back to you with an answer with a bit more thought?
As long as you guys promise to keep brewing on that. While you're also thinking and answering the next question.
Okay.
Tanya Kiriluk says, moving forward into 2018, what do you feel you and/or the gaming industry should/could be doing to help combat the stereotypes still associated in some communities with women playing video games? I'm going to be honest here, Tanya. I don't know what the stereotypes are. I'm just going to plead ignorance there, and I just don't. I don't know what the stereotype of a woman playing video games is. But I also obviously understand that women have all kinds of trouble participating in communities because they are women, and that's it. They just can't.
I guess it's difficult for us to imagine what the stereotypes are because
we don't experience it.
Because we're generally not. We don't attribute stereotypes. We don't.
Well, yeah,
people,
so it doesn't cross your mind, does it?
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I mean, sometimes on our videos, it's like, it's that token gamer chick, like the girl from the know or whatever. They might get them kind of comments where it's like, they've only got her on there because she's a girl and she's got boobs or whatever, but she's not there because she's any good at gaming. Like, girls can never be good at gaming. I don't, maybe that's kind of touching on what
that's
means.
I feel like that's a very immature thing that comes from perhaps younger commenters, maybe, and that's why that kind of thing. This is, I don't know. This is just coming from a place of ignorance. That I guess maybe that's what it is, because that's the only rationale I can apply to it. Someone who is a child still, and it still thinks girls are icky, and it's like, what else is there? What else can there? What can be done about it other than just?
I don't know.
Keep calm and carry on, kind of thing. It's like women like Alana Pierce and people like that who just make very good videos about all kinds of things, just about great topics, and then they get those videos out there, and then the just more exposure you have to that audience, then the more I guess, in theory, the less shitty that audience will be. But yeah, otherwise it's a big problem, and I have no idea what to do about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that we are kind of ignorant about, the kind of issues that women gamers deal with, and I guess like we are voices for the community. Unfortunately, we can't represent that portion since we are ignorant to it. So maybe just let us know what kind of definitely things that you have to put up with, and just feed our brains so that we can maybe help you out, if because we're kind of a position where we can shed light on certain issues and that. So maybe we can do you a service if you just let us know kind of things that you do have to deal with and shit.
But it's another great question there. Thank you very much, Tanya. Matthew John Jenkins. All right, boys, do any games have a Christmassy feel for any of you? Like, do you play any games around Christmas in particular to get in the mood, similar to how people watch Christmas films to do the same? Christmassy games, guys?
I don't play Christmassy games, I'll be honest. I don't revisit a lot of games, I just play new games.
I do revisit a lot of games, but not necessarily over Christmas. I do it with films, and I do it with TV shows, TV episodes of comedies I like and stuff like that. But I don't really do it with games. What about you, James?
Are there any Christmassy games?
Oh, yeah.
Dead Rising 4, was it?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
That was Christmassy.
There's all kinds of games that give you the old Christmas special
like GTA
theme,
have like their themed day.
Yeah, you get the Santa hat thing for your Destiny character or whatever, you know what I mean? It's like that kind of stuff. Overwatch has like a holiday special thing as well. I think they do Halloween and stuff even. I don't know. They play Overwatch. So Matthew John Jenkins says he plays Max Payne and the later levels of Freedom Fighters purely because of the dark, snowy feel, because there is snow. I get the Freedom Fighters thing, though, definitely. I know what you mean. Payne. Max Payne, it's like this snowy kind of, is it New York? I can't remember.
Yeah.
And they're bloody wicked games, he says. Yeah, I definitely get that. I guess they don't have to be Christmassy games, just games you return to. Okay. The only recent game with Christmas in it that I played was The Division, and that's like, because this virus thing that happens, it happens on Black Friday, so it's beautiful. Manhattan is kind of just getting ready for Christmas, except it's empty, and I quite like that. There's like stacked up Christmas trees on the sides of the road and stuff. There's like Christmas lights that are kind of half lit, and like trees that in parks with fairy lights on them and stuff like that. And it's really nice. It's really quite a surreal setting, and that's one of the reasons that I gave that game any attention whatsoever. I guess, okay, that'll be my answer, The Division, but I don't replay it every Christmas. Thorvald de Graaf says, sorry if I mispronounced that, says, new patron here, so here goes nothing, I guess. Are there any games you played when you were younger that you swear are actually really good, but which are generally agreed upon to be bad, or which no one knows about? Oh, I wish Liam was here to answer this. Liam would be a treasure trove for this answer. James, any old games that everyone says is shite except you?
I'm trying to think of one. I can't even remember the title of it. It was probably that shit.
There are so many old games on PlayStation and stuff that I played, and that I used to trade games all the time. Every week I'd like get a game, play it, trade it into the local rubbish game trade shop, and get another one. Basically renting them, to be honest. And I'd play through all kinds of rubbish.
What do we think of Gex from the PlayStation?
Yeah.
See, that's how shit it is.
It's a good answer. I think there's so many of these older games that are just like, I think I played, there was one called like, what was it? Blast Core or something like that on N64. I don't know if people think that's great.
It's difficult though, isn't it? Like, to know if everyone feels, this is a shit game, or if it's just you.
My answer is probably Blastcore, because I played that and absolutely loved it. And it was basically a game where you just had to destroy levels or race through levels. And it was like a top-down thing, really rubbish camera angle. It was on N64. No one ever talks about it or remembers it, but I really enjoyed it.
I just thought of the game I was thinking of. Star Wars Pod Racer, Racer Revenge, which was the sequel.
Racer Revenge is the sequel.
The sequel to it, which everyone says, no, that's shit.
Yeah, me included, mate.
Yeah. I just found the mechanics behind it were better, but maybe it's because I was a bit more mature and not so naive to the world.
The original Pod Racer game was really pretty special.
It was good.
There's a lot of craps about the Star Wars games. Star Wars Jedi Power Battles on PS1. Star Wars The Phantom Menace, both dog shit. Both completed 100% by yours truly. I enjoyed it, man.
Jedi Starfighter on the PlayStation 2.
That was okay though. That was good.
It was alright, but it wasn't as good as the first one.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. I think that would be such a good office conversation. Take it back to the office later and have a chat about it.
My answer would be, I answered it last week, and I looked in the comments and nobody picked up on it. They picked up on the movies, which I mentioned, a lot of love for the movies. They picked up on Star Wars Galaxies, which I mentioned, a lot of love for Star Wars Galaxies. What nobody picked up on was Earth and Beyond. So that was one that was gone forgotten, apparently. Yeah, that was a great game.
Earth and Beyond, what was this?
It was an MMO, online like space game. A lot like I can't remember the name of it, but it's just this like it's like 2D space game.
Yeah.
It's not 2D. It's like 3D, but you can't go up or down. So it's essentially just on a flat plane, like on a disc kind of space. It was awesome. It had one of the best communities I've ever experienced in an online game. Where I have vivid memories of approaching a scenario, doing some minor whatever I was doing for my mission, and then engaging with somebody random and then striking up a friendship just out of it, and then going off and doing missions together just randomly, and I think that happened quite often in that game. It was, unfortunately, I think Westwood Studios, I mentioned it last week, it was their last game that they ever produced, and that was it. They drew a line in it and it went dead. But I would like to see a return of that game. It was like EVE Online, but you could come out on the ships. And I was like, oh, EVE Online, it's not as good as Earth and Beyond because you can't get out your ship.
EVE Online, not as good as Earth and Beyond.
And you can't run around and get I thought it was awesome. Like, and there was 3 different main classes that you could unlock skill trees for. And then I'm a sucker for a good progression system. And then I remember setting myself a goal to unlock the cloaking skill in one of the unlock trees, and then I remember the feeling like when you finally eventually get the cloaking skill and you can go out and like do this other part of a mission that you couldn't do before, unlocks a new area and something. It's like such a rewarding feel. That game had it right. It was a really good game.
Better than EVE Online.
It was better than
EVE Online. Gareth Evans review there. Stephen Brazier says, with the announcement of the Jak and Daxter bundle for PS4, I thought I'd ask what everyone in the office's favourite childhood 3D platformer is. Jak and Daxter is possibly one of my favourites, but I kind of split people a little bit. Jak 2, I remember, and things like that, not being as hotly received as that. And I actually didn't play Ratchet and Clank that much, but I did play the remaster last year when it came out, and that was absolutely breathtaking. What an amazing remake of a game that was.
3D platformers.
3D platformers.
I mean, they're like my forte.
Banjo-Kazooie, probably.
There's so many.
Your forte.
Yeah.
Really?
Sonic, what is it? Which Sonic is it?
No, it's actually not Sonic.
Right. Okay.
Right. It's either Ratchet and Clank series.
Yeah.
Jak and Daxter, bar the first one, because controversial. I didn't like the first one.
Really?
Yeah,
fair enough.
I didn't like it. As soon as the guns and that got it, I was like, all right, okay.
It changed a little bit, didn't it, in Jak 2? And
it like matured infinitely.
They tried something by putting it in a city, and the city was really like bleak, wasn't it, and stuff.
And they kind of made it open world, but not really. But
it was cool.
What else is on the list? Sly Raccoon or Sly Cooper, whatever you want to call it. That, I think, was my favourite of those 3 series. Spyro the Dragon, original.
Spyro, yeah.
And Crash Bandicoot.
Spyro the Dragon.
Yeah, those 5. But I couldn't tell you which were those 5.
Well, we've narrowed it down to 5.
5 series from James. There we go.
Very good answers there, James. What about you guys?
I mean,
platforms. Did you play any?
Crash Bandicoot, does that qualify?
Yeah. It's 3D. It's platformer.
Crash Bandicoot has to be my only answer because every other 3D platformer is dog shit. No, I just don't like the genre. I'll be honest. Crash Bandicoot was a blast from the past. When I was a kid, it was great. But Spyro, nah. Even Super Mario Odyssey, I didn't have a good time with it. I just don't like the genre. I played the game from start to finish. I completed the game, but it felt like it was a laborious task for me at points. I wasn't enjoying it. I can see why it's loved, because there's so many special moments in it, but it didn't connect with me on a personal level. I just don't like the genre.
Yeah, well, but actually that's the first mention that Mario's had in this question, which is unreal. Yeah. But yeah, Mario 64 was actually his first 3D platformers probably the first I ever played. And then Banjo-Kazooie, I would say I enjoyed more. I think I actually 100%ed that almost, but I didn't do that for Mario 64. So I think my answer is probably Banjo-Kazooie, just so that Nintendo and whatnot get a bit of a shout out. So that's another great question. Thank you, Stephen Brazier. Oh, Brazier. Am I saying it wrong? Stephen Brazier. I said Brazier when I first read it up. Stephen Brazier. I'm sorry, dude.
Brazier.
And then one last question before we do a break for Fact of the Week and whatnot. Sam Chernery says, does anyone in the PGG office is also into fighting games? And if so, do you like to focus on one character, or do you like to try to be a jack-of-all-style player that is competent with several characters? So anyone like fighting games? And anyone like fighting games, do you stick with one character, or do you jump between all of them? Do you like fighting games, James?
We're classing wrestling as fighting games. No, okay. Then
I think they're pretty much dancing games, aren't they?
All right. That's two, whatever. Laugh all you want,
sorry,
but you know.
Sorry. No fighting games then? No.
I'm trying to think of one
Street
that I've
Fighter,
played.
Tekken, any of those?
Injustice. I quite like that. Injustice.
Yeah, okay.
I haven't played the second one though. That's the DC /
The first one, the first Injustice added this stuff where you'd like kick them into cars and bins and you'd pick stuff up from the environment, and then they added that into Mortal Kombat X or 10.
And that's the same studio, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so. And I didn't really get on with Injustice that much because it felt, for some reason, a bit stiffer. It felt like the animation and the fighting styles didn't really flow together as well as it does in Street Fighter and whatever. But my favorite fighting game is pretty much Mortal Kombat, I'll be honest. I played a lot of Street Fighter, I've played quite a bit of Tekken, but Mortal Kombat, I don't know, I think I just like the kind of ridiculous, dark kind of fantasy bits of it, and the Scorpion and Sub-Zero. I mean, they just look amazing. You can't argue with those guys. So I think Mortal Kombat's my favourite. And I probably don't stick to one character though. I do jump around quite a bit and have sample everything, I suppose.
I'm the same. But traditionally, Street Fighter was always my fighting game. I don't play fighting games anymore, but Street Fighter, I was proficient with a lot of the characters. Dalsim, Ken, Ryu, or however you pronounce it. There was so many characters that I knew all the moves for, so I guess But then again, it was the basic. It wasn't one of these modern ones with there's so many different I can't even imagine what they're like these days because I haven't played a modern fighting game ever.
I mean, the character rosters, it's not really that true for Mortal Kombat. I can't really remember what the exact numbers were, but I just remember Street Fighter 4, I think, just the amount of characters I was really blown away by, because there's a huge amount of characters to choose from, and that's cool. That's really good. It's probably not as true for Mortal Kombat. You probably get a decent amount. I can't really remember, but Street Fighter, I think it's a different. I didn't really play that much Street Fighter when I was a kid.
You didn't have a Super Nintendo?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I played a little bit of Street Fighter 2 and whatever it was called. There's so many different versions of them. I can't remember. So I played a bit of Street Fighter 2, and it was all right. But they weren't yellow immortal ninjas that threw spears out of their hands and pulled people back with chains. I mean, that's not in the game, so I just didn't enjoy it as much as a kid. But yeah, that's the answer. Cheers, Sam. So let's do Fact of the Week and 30-second throwdown. So first up, Fact of the Week. Give us a jingle, please. Okay, Fact of the Week for this week. It's a bit topical, actually, given recent news. The PS1 classic Medieval was originally going to be on the PC and Sega Saturn and be more of an arcade-style shooter, but it was made into a PlayStation exclusive after Sony bought out the game's development company. Right, so on to the 30-second throwdown, which I believe Gaz is going to take for this week. 30-second throwdown. Yeah. This one is delightfully titled "Walking in a Winter Wonderland." Gareth, whenever you're ready.
fucking snow. I mean, we live here in Britain, right? And we're a civilized country, and we should know how to deal with snow by now. It was promised for a few days, but then Friday morning comes, the snow falls, everyone loses the shit. Absolutely everybody. The whole country grinds to a halt. Why didn't they grit the roads? Why did they not grit the roads? Nobody could make it into work. There was disruption all over the place. Who likes snow? All snow is a headache. That's all snow is. A disruption. People freaking out. Oh, I won't be able to get any food. Won't be able to go to work. Won't be able to go and do what I've got to do.
That's your 30 seconds.
I could have gone on.
That could have been a 30-minute throwdown.
It was, it's kind of thrown out our Christmas schedule and stuff, preparing some stuff for Christmas, and some of that has had to fallen by the wayside now because of the snow. Having said that, I do like snow. I do like how it looks and whatnot.
It's pretty.
It does look very pretty.
Oh, it's absolutely breathtaking.
I had my birthday on Sunday and it snowed all day. And I won't go on to Moorland, but I couldn't do anything because it was snow. It was guaranteed to snow all day, so we didn't leave the house. But it was nice to look at. I could look out the window, looking at how much fun I could be having.
Well, snowballs could be throwing, but it's too cold.
Yeah. Immerse yourself in nature, innit? That's it. Snow's all right.
It's nothing but a headache, Mike, is what it is. If you're a business owner, it's nothing but a headache.
30-second throwdown followed by the 2 minutes of melancholy.
2 minutes of contemplating my life.
2-minute reflection. Okay, on to some more questions. Nick Phillips. After watching some of the Video Game Awards trailers, I couldn't help but notice how far video game environments have come along. Destiny 2 has some of the most amazing environmental art I've seen in a long time. Do you have any standout environments that made you stop in your tracks to gawk at? Yeah, Destiny and Destiny 2 have some of the best skyboxes in video games. They're really good stuff, and that's probably one of the things that Bungie, as well as making things feel good to shoot at, but Bungie are very good at making skyboxes and environments and making them look very, very nice. So I'd agree with Destiny there.
Horizon Zero Dawn,
yes, absolutely.
It's a cracker.
Wonderful, yeah. What about you, James?
It's dated now. Skyrim. When you're looking top of the throat of the world, throat of the earth.
I would say Bethesda are probably the king. Yeah. Kind of stepping out of the dungeon, stepping out of the starting cave, and then seeing the world unfurl before you. That's kind of their little trademark thing at the moment.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
GTA 5 specifically, that was really well done. What
did you like about that?
Just the sheer scale of everything. It actually looked like it could be real life Los Angeles, which is
good.
Very spot on.
No one here has played Assassin's Creed Origins yet, right?
No, my brother-in-law has.
Right. Well, there's a lot of talk about how amazing Egypt is and how unbelievably detailed and immersive it is, I guess, to be in. The draw, I've seen a little bit of the gameplay, and the draw, kind of in like I was with someone playing it. I'm not like watching gameplay trailers. So I was watching someone play it, and it was like the draw distances are just, oh my god, it's amazing. The technology behind that stuff is very exciting, and so Assassin's Creed Origins.
What system were you watching? Was
PS4 Pro on a 4K TV, so it was not. It was. So this was console draw distances as well, which is not as good as PC, generally speaking. Yeah. And it was absolutely wonderful to look at, and I think that there's a lot of like games journalists and stuff just tweeting screenshots of how beautiful the game was around the time it came out. So that definitely needs a shout out. I think video game environments are really important to get right, because
The Witcher 3 a game. The Witcher 3 is another one that you say
The Witcher 3 is possibly the best, I think, because of how lifelike it is, or not lifelike, but lived in it feels. Yeah. Where there's this is what I always say, but there's like fences that are falling down, and you look if you were just to go into a village and then just look in any direction, you kind of get the feeling that if you just looked at one frame of that game, there would be some kind of story there to see. There's always like wagons that have crashed, and you can see the tracks leading to where the wagon was, and you can see why maybe it crashed, because there's like it's wet and there's it's like a slippy, muddy surface. So there's a lot of stuff, environmental stuff like that in The Witcher 3, which I think is just astounding, and is one of the reasons why I'm so excited for Cyberpunk, because seeing that kind of stuff in a sci-fi cyberpunk setting would be incredible. But it's a cool question, Nick. Thank you very much. Just the Stormtrooper says, You get the opportunity to take over a company of, quotes, questionable reputation. Do you take over and try to change it from the inside, redeem it and live with its reputation? Or do you just sell it and create your own company? What do you do? Go. He says he would change a company for the better. What would you guys do? If you could take over a company of shitty reputation...
I'm all about rehabilitation.
Redemption.
I'm all about that. And I think that...
Red Dead Redemption.
Red Dead Redemption. There you go,
Don't
guys.
do that anywhere else.
I'm very proud of you, Mike.
Top comedy.
I'm all about doing the right thing, learning from your mistakes, and I'm becoming a better person or entity, as it were, in this. So, but I'll take over EA any day, and I will, from the very top, I will fester out all of the negativity and bad shit that's happening and turn it into a shining beacon that it fucking should be.
Get us some good Star Wars games going.
Yeah,
for once.
I mean, imagine. Yeah. Imagine if you were in charge of all those. It would. If you were the decision maker, microtransactions would be a thing of the past. How many people would be grateful to me? How many people?
It'd make you a god.
Millions of people.
I would go with Hello Games, because I would want to. That technology that they've got and see what they can do there, and I wouldn't worry so much about the redemption side of it. I just think of the potential of what could be done with what they've tried to do in No Man's Sky, and just try and work on that, and just put a lot of money into that. I suppose that's what I would do. What about you, James?
Zynga. I'd go for Zynga.
Zynga?
Yeah, it's out there, right? I will admit.
Explain yourself.
Explain myself, right? Well, back in the earliest of my days on Facebook, right, I was quite into a game called Mob City or Mafia City, something like that. It was one of those games. Yeah. Everyone's probably played one of them, right? Yeah. And that was the early days of Zynga, when they were an okay company.
It was basically a menu as a game.
Essentially.
It was a spreadsheet.
Click this, click that. Yeah, done. That's it. Right. Now wait for everything to happen. Yeah. Invite. And then it just as soon as they found out that that they could make loads of money, it just got shadier and shadier. And you look at some of the games they've made, it's a transaction that they've put like a little bit of a game on top of.
Yeah,
that's the opposite way around.
That's actually an excellent answer, James. That's really good.
Thank you.
Zynga, you're dead right. You're dead right. I mean, this is the thing with mobile games. They get kind of overlooked in games news and stuff, but they are the originator of a lot of the shite that goes on in AAA gaming now. They just see stuff that goes on there,
but they get away with it
like Zynga
because they're free to play.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not. They don't get attention from mainstream media. Who's going to be outraged about Zynga? There's no real mobile kind of
or Zeptolab or somebody like that. Really minute studios that produce indie games on mobiles.
Yeah, so that's like going. I love that. That's like going for the root of the problem. Yeah, I really like that.
Start at the problem.
Great
kill
answer.
it up. Right.
So thanks for the question there. Tony Crushank says, a question occurred to me based on your discussion about microtransactions. Would you consider a Patreon donation being equivalent to a microtransaction? Your channel is free, and you point out the option to give a donation, pay a microtransaction to support it without pushing. It seems to me that they are equivalent, and that this is an example of an acceptable microtransaction.
The problem with the word microtransaction is it's stigmatized now. It means something bad and negative to us because we talk about them all the time. But if you look at the definition, like it is giving money, a very small amount of money. So in essence,
like 1 and 2 penny sweets from
micro transaction, because you're giving a small amount of money. If that's your definition of microtransaction, then kind of yes. But you made a good point in the office. If you'd like to,
I made many good points. I can't remember which one.
No, I think it was just one. Mike.
It was was it the fact that it's a subscription because it's a recurring and you kind of sign up to it rather than buy, if you know what I mean, and then also the fact that it is a donation, so that it is just it's a. If
you're doing it just to get the podcast early, if that's the only reason that you're supporting us on Patreon, you're probably doing it for the wrong reasons. If you're doing it to get money's worth out of it, that's the wrong reason to do it. Just stop doing it if that's the case. You're doing it hopefully fundamentally to support us as creators and to bring you the content that we do. And if that is not part of the reason you're donating, you probably want to stop.
You can see that from the reward tiers as well, I suppose, on our thing, because it's $1 and $5. $5, whereas there's
we're not bribing
other
people or like offering loads of shit.
I think that's an interesting point for games developers, though. How well would they get on if they just put a little thing at the bottom of their menu saying, "You want to support this game? Just give us $1, please." And and that might be that might work. I
mean, if it's a free-to-play game, you can see that, right?
Yeah. But totally. That's
if people paid for our videos and then we added the Patreon on top, I'd be outraged myself.
Yeah.
I'd be outraged.
Yeah.
But if it's a free service like we're offering, like free-to-play games would be, then I see that. It's
kind of unofficially what happens with Warframe, isn't it? Because they get that kind of, I just want to support the game microtransaction purchases, except they get, I don't know what they get, skins or whatever in exchange. So this kind of unofficially they're kind of set up in Warframe, I suppose, because they've even said that is what they're aiming for. They're aiming to get their community to be so happy with the game and the quality of the game that they want to support it, which is quite admirable. And then that's their actual business model. So it could be a way forward for a lot of places, I reckon. So Lewis Welford, do you have a game or series that you go back to yearly or play at a certain time of year? So this is kind of like the Christmas one, but it's opened up to the whole year, I guess. I'd say mine is like Knights of the Old Republic. For some reason, I always go back to that. Probably just because it's in my Steam library and on my iPad and in various other places, so I can just jump back into it whenever I want. You guys?
Rome Total War is when I go back to. Fallout New Vegas is when I go back to.
Fallout New Vegas, yeah, I've played a few times.
I've recently gone back to This War of Mine and realised how much I really love that game.
That's a good game.
There's some DLC that they've released, which is like a story-based DLC, so it's not just like a random thing anymore. There's like a specific story that you've got to deal with, and there's a couple more coming in the future. That's a bit of a tangent, but yeah, those are my go-to fallbacks.
James?
San Andreas, GTA. Anytime that's come out, like backwards compatibility or 10th anniversary, Rockstar released it on mobile, so I got it on mobile, and probably Sonic Adventure 2 again.
Yeah.
So yeah,
cool. Yeah, I think everyone's got these kind of games, haven't they?
Yeah.
They just dip into. I think another guys in the office, Jake and Liam, certainly have as well. So it's definitely a thing. What happens? Josh Northall says, when it comes to melee combat in video games, do you prefer slower-paced, more methodical systems like Souls games, or do you prefer faster-paced things such as Devil May Cry? He says Devil May Cry 3 is his favourite game of all time.
Well, I think we know his answer then.
Yeah, I would say Bloodborne, which is kind of in the middle there, I reckon, because it is methodical. But it's also fast, but not as fast as Devil May Cry. Obviously, it's not. You can't be reckless because you've got a stamina bar, so you've got to be tactical. So I think Bloodborne.
Yeah, I think they're the same. It needs to be a balance. I think if you're spamming buttons and you're hoping for a random thing. I mean, I don't know. I haven't played Devil May Cry. Maybe I'm under not doing it justice there. But there needs to be a balance between spamming attacks and being less strategical, using just enough of your stamina and then just balancing all that off. I think. I don't really like the Souls ones. They're really slow. Really slow.
I actually can't get on with Souls combat as much as Bloodborne at all, because it feels I'm cowering behind a shield a lot more than I am actually on the attack, which is what Bloodborne's all about. It's all about being aggressive. It's much easier to die in Bloodborne by being a coward, which is not true in Dark Souls. If you're hiding and just carefully shuffling around, you might fare all right. You probably will. It's quite encouraged for some playstyles. You can't do that in Bloodborne. You've got to just go at them and hurt them before they hurt you. So that's my answer. Also, I think Hellblade was really interesting with its combat, where you did feel like you could, and it was made by Ninja Theory, so they had that kind of caliber. They knew how to make proper fighting. Yeah. But you felt like you could really kick these things. They were big, intimidating enemies all the time. Even the most basic ones were supposed to be kind of psychologically intimidating. But you felt like you could chop them up. You felt like you really could kick their ass. But they eventually, as the themes of the story kind of unfold, it just throws more and more and more and more at you, and then you kind of start feeling overwhelmed, but you still have to fight on. And that had a really good balance of feeling fast and tight and responsive and effective, while also making you feel like you've got to be, you've got to choose your battles a bit more carefully as you go on. So that was awesome in Hellblade, I thought. James, what do you reckon?
I'd go for slightly slower, methodical pace to the two of you. I quite like it's not quite in the same sort of vein as what we're talking about, but like the sort of combat systems you get in
wrestling.
That's free. We've had free. No, I was going to say RPGs.
Right.
Yeah. So, like, if we take Skyrim yet again, you got the stamina bar, and it's nowhere near in the same sort of vein as Bloodborne or Souls or any of those sort of games. But it's still, at times you got to be methodical and think, right, I've got this amount of stamina, and I've got 8 whatever people in front of me that are all trying to kill me. So yeah, I'd go for the slightly slower, more methodical pace to the two of you.
I think melee combat is easy to get wrong, and I think that there's a reason Souls games are so popular, and part of that is certainly the variety and freedom it gives you in choosing your kind of combat. But then games like Devil May Cry, I think possibly the closest thing, please don't get upset at me for saying this now, but the closest thing I've played to anything like that recently is Nier Automata, where you're kind of jumping around and slashing, but also in Nier Automata you just basically have to hold down the shoot button the entire time, because you've got like a little robot that just fires a stream of bullets. This kind of huge aggressive variety of fighting where you're constantly on the attack, and it does feel kind of like Devil May Cry to me, but I'm sure I'm an idiot, and people who play these games a lot more than I do can tell me why exactly that is. Mounty Man, have we already had a question off Mounty Man? This is we'll ask it anyway. Everyone here in the States loves their Thanksgiving food, but I've always been more partial to our Christmas food. What is y'all's favourite food that you have at Christmas, and what's your favourite Christmas dessert?
Pigs in blankets, it has to be. Pigs in blankets is hands down the best. Turkey, cranberry.
Stuffing. I love stuffing.
It's the whole shebang in it. Like every Christmas, I just find this capacity. I mean, I do generally kind of eat a lot anyway, but I do have this capacity at Christmas to just eat more than I am humanly capable of. And I think that's true of everyone. And I'll have 2 plates of Christmas dinner usually on Christmas Day, and I will then have Christmas pudding or something like that, and I absolutely love all of it. Everything. Just don't hold back. Give me
Sprouts?
everything. I don't like sprouts, and I don't like cauliflower or anything. I mean,
cauliflower
you don't get cauliflower, but
a
lot of vegetables I don't like, but I will eat, because it's just part of the deal.
Part and parcel.
You get Christmas dinner, you got to eat your sprouts. That's just how I was raised.
I was raised well.
Can we all agree that Pigs in Blankets is the number one, though?
I mean, they're a top 3. I'll put that.
They're a top 3.
They are top 3.
I'm disappointed.
As far as the food that's on your Christmas, your Christmas dinner plate.
If there's something that I can have more of until I'm totally full, it's Pigs and Blankets. If there's any Pigs and Blankets left at the end of the day, I will be very disappointed in myself.
Yeah, but it's just like Yorkshire pudding and stuff.
I always treat myself to a 4-bird, or this year a 5-bird roast from Lidl.
5?
5 birds?
Yeah. Are there 5 birds that you can eat?
I hope so. I bought one. So yeah, that's my treat, and it's like that big, as you can imagine, 5 birds.
Yeah.
I've got no room for pudding. I wish I did. Plus the Pigs and Blankets, plus the stuffing.
Yeah, not really.
Cranberry sauce everywhere.
I do like pudding. I like Christmas pudding, big style. Yeah, I love it, man. Cheers
that was
for
nice.
that question. Million says, asking about the Game Awards this year, I would love to hear your opinions on the Game of the Year and other categories. Do you guys agree with what won? How would you change it if you were the judges? So Game of the Year was Breath of the Wild, right? And
I don't agree. I'll put it out there. I don't think Breath of the Wild was the best open world game that I've played this year even. I don't think it. I don't know. There's certain parts of it that I didn't appreciate, but then again, there's that Nintendo magic sprinkled across the game, right? And that you get with all Nintendo games. Oh, right, it was finished, it was polished, it was great, but there's just something that I just don't get the cutesiness of it. It doesn't connect with me. I enjoyed Horizon Zero Dawn a lot more. I would say I'm enjoying playing Skyrim a lot more. I've played 60 hours of Skyrim, and that's gone by in a heartbeat. Whereas I felt like I didn't even finish Breath of the Wild, and I got like 30 hours, and I'm like, I'm just going to leave it.
Breath of the Wild didn't do things that I look for. So I look for kind of setting, world building, feeling of immersion. Just didn't get that from Breath of the Wild. And it's a very, very nice looking game. And there's a lot of interesting stuff. It's got a very interesting design philosophy towards open world, which is refreshing and good, and not filling your map with icons and just giving you that feeling of, if I go up that hill, there's probably going to be something good up there. and then you go up the hill and find out, and you're just a little playground. You just go around and do what you want, and there's a lot different mentality to your Ubisoft open world formula that we've been hit with. I wouldn't have picked it as my game of the year, and I understand also that there's like this weight of industry, like that's probably, if I had to predict game of the year, I definitely would have gone Breath of the Wild. Possibly Mario Odyssey. I would have, I think some people were surprised actually that Mario Odyssey didn't get as much love in the whole, in the awards as a whole, because it's Mario game.
Yeah. Again, it's two Nintendo games with absolutely zero story, and that's something that I put a lot of weight in my games. Like, I need something intriguing to keep me coming back, and the fact that there was nothing to bring me back to keep my interest in Breath of the Wild or Super Mario Odyssey, it was saving the princess. Big deal. Like, I've done this 100 times.
It's been past
Save
30
the fucking
years.
princess from the castle, from the...
I actually quite like this. I actually quite like that it's like, oh, there's this bad thing happening over there, and then you're like, oh my god, okay, I'm going to go sort it out, right? Now that's where you get that urgency in open world games, where it lights a fire into your ass with the story, but then it also wants you to spend like half an hour fucking gathering feathers or whatever. And it's like, but this game kind of doesn't do that. It's like, yeah, I mean, that's all happening over there, but it's quite a long ongoing battle, so... Just don't worry about it for now. Just go and cook or something, So I do quite like that, and it does. It's a lot of things that the game does is flip things on its head, and that's what I think that's probably why it gets that kind of plaudits and the best game of all time reviews and whatever.
I just want to point out there that don't hate me for that. That is my personal opinion, and I can see why people like it. I'm not taking that away from you guys.
Don't hate me for that.
I don't want to say that you should. Exactly. I mean, there's so many people that they love it so much, and I don't want to undermine that. You enjoy what games you enjoy. That's for you. But for me, it's not really that good. So
I fucking love that Jim Sterling keeps saying 7 out of 10 whenever he mentions it, because I fucking love that.
Just to light the fires again.
It does not matter, does it? It does not matter.
I mean, Zero Horizon Dawn. It's been
Horizon Zero Dawn was
I
think, what did it win? It won something.
Yeah,
but I can't remember what it was. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice also won 3 awards.
We're happy with that.
Which I was really delighted to see that getting.
I was surprised how often Cuphead appeared in the Game of the Year awards.
It's because it's independent, right? And it was such a unique game, and it was made with a lot of love and care and attention.
Definitely stands out. From and there's a lot. Indie is always a competitive category because there's a lot of people. What Remains of Edith Finch and stuff. People have been flat out declaring that that's game of the year and things. But so indie is always a competitive category. Definitely more so this year than possibly in a while, I'd say, because there was a few games that came out and people were like, this is the best game of the year.
And because AAA is so trash.
Yeah.
A lot of people have taken more note of indie games these days, which rightfully so, because there's some amazing things happening.
I mean, what a world why isn't it a world where Star Wars Battlefront 2 comes out and everyone's like, this is the fucking best Star Wars game in the last decade? Why is that? Why is it?
One of the best games I've played this year is a little indie game called Human Fall Flat.
Oh, I've heard of that.
It's really good. It's like a physics-based game, and it's really fun. It's more fun if you're watching it, apparently. But I don't know. I'm always on my own and playing this solitary being. But
cool. A little shout out there for that little indie game. So Game Awards. I mean, I don't. Game Awards. I think for me, you should take. Well, how I take them anyway is as recommendations. Same with movies and Oscars and stuff. I'm not asked who wins what really, but if something is getting a lot of attention, and like, that must be good. So then I'll have a look at it.
And on the topic of awards, we'll be bringing out our Christmas special awards on Christmas Day this year. The Pre-GG Awards for 2017. Look out for that. Stick it in your diaries. I mean, there's nothing else to do on Christmas Day, let's be honest.
Nah.
I mean, opening prezzies and all that shit and waiting for the dinner to be cooked.
Pigs and blankets.
Get yourself on YouTube, on your new tablet or whatever device you've got for Christmas, and check out the PGG 2017 Christmas Awards.
It's going to be the best thing you see all Christmas, I'll tell you that. Right, so last question of the day then, and just before we go, I guess I'll remind everyone that if you want us to answer your questions, then if you're a Patreon, these are all questions from our patrons. Just ask away on our Patreon page in response to this post. Just ask your question. The tighter, the shorter, the better. The broader the topic, the better. It doesn't have to be news. It can be literally literally anything. And it doesn't have to be about us. It doesn't have to be what's your favourite, whatever. Like literally anything, any issue you want us to get our teeth into, just ask away. And like I said, the shorter and tighter the better, because it just helps with like organising and everything. So thanks everyone who asked questions this week. So the last question, Michael Compton. What were your early gaming days like? Here in America, I had an Atari 2600, is that how you say that? Until 7 or so. Then the NES blew my mind. Was the Master System popular in your part of the world? Also, what system games would you say were most impactful on your formative years? Early gaming days. James, I'm interested to hear this about you, because so far all I know is Sonic. So,
Sonic.
What was your first console?
Mega Drive. The Sega.
The Sonic one.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And guess what the first game I played was? You guessed it.
Right, okay.
But I actually have more of a fondness in my childhood for my PlayStation 1 days. And the first game I had for that was a game called Heart of Darkness, where it was really pixelated and trashy. But you're like this kid who gets essentially transported to a demonic world, and there's like sludgy nightmare monsters following
I
around.
remember
It was a good game, that one. I never completed it because, again, it came out when I was 8, 9 maybe, I can't even remember, and I was trash at difficult games like that. So I've never come back to that since. But yeah, PlayStation 1 era games, they're
I mean, I fully agree with that, because I had SNES and an N64, but then PlayStation 1 was when I really took control of it, and I was like, I want this game, I'm going to go out and get it, and I would trade in my games and whatever, and I just like, you know, if I had any birthday money or whatever, I was in control of my hobby at PlayStation 1, and then that's when I started kind of exploring all these different games and stuff, and that's when I was really excited about it. So N64 and Ocarina of Time and stuff like that is what got me into it, big style, and the SNES earlier than that with Super Mario World and stuff. But then, PlayStation 1 is when I like properly
began to appreciate games. I remember waiting for the first Digimon World to come out. So sad. On PlayStation 1, and I went to Woolworths in a local shopping centre near me, and I went there, honest to God, every Friday for 8 months, maybe more, waiting for that game. I went up to the games counter, asked the gentleman.
Before the days of the internet, obviously.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. Before I knew any better, before checking reviews or TV or anything like that. Just go over, is it out yet? Is it out yet? Every week for 8 months. That is
adorable and heartbreaking.
I got the game, finally. It wasn't even that good.
That is the heartbreaking.
That's like the Futurama episode, like a dog just sitting there for all eternity for his owner.
That's
Gaz, what about you?
Oh, I started gaming on the Spectrum, right? The ZX Sinclair Spectrum, I think it was. 6 years old or whatever it was. Long time ago. All the games were like 2D platformers or whatever, just like really 8-bit games. Really, really. I mean, we're talking a lot of time, like 30 years ago. Moved on to the Commodore 64, the Commodore Amiga, which was my of one thing that I remember the most vividly and the best games on Commodore Amiga. I remember upgrading that to 1 meg, right? So there was it was half a meg, the core system, and then we got an upgrade that you get like the extra half a meg thing, and you stick it in the bottom, and it upgraded it, and we were like, yes. Me and my brother.
That's amazing. I've seen some old Twitter photos on Twitter and stuff, probably in the last few months actually, of like old adverts from PC Gamer magazine, or probably wasn't even PC Gamer, it was probably like PC Format or something. Yeah, and it was like adverts for PCs with like really shit, like really small, processors measured in megahertz, memory measured in megabytes, like 128 megabit RAM and stuff, like fucking hell. Yeah,
I mean, I lived through those days. And I got a lot of enjoyment from those games. Laugh at looking at them now.
It's just hilarious how they're advertised as being so powerful.
It is funny. Yeah, obviously through my teens, moving on to the console generation, I didn't really get on. And then my next milestone, I guess, was when I got my first PC at the age of like 20. Got like a full-time job. It's like, yes, PC. I used to love strategy games, first-person shooters. You don't really do that much on the console. So it was like, Spectrum, when I first started. Commodore Amiga was when I really formed my gaming passion, and then my first PC was when, like, right, this opened so many doors for me.
Yeah,
now.
I think that's really interesting though, because mine is the same. I was probably 19, 20 when I got my own PC for the first time, and that's something you take for granted as an adult, I guess, because PC gaming is within your reach. Whereas as a kid, you've just got to be lucky to have parents who happen to have a powerful PC with a graphics card in it, and if you haven't, then you're fucked. You got to play a PlayStation or an Xbox, and that's it. And I think PC gaming is it's pretty inaccessible to a lot of anyone under the 18 a lot of the time, without coming down to pot luck, I guess, because it is pretty pricey to get into that hardware. But that's a great question to leave it on there. Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you very much, everyone who asked your questions. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next time.